everyone, my name is Pius Kalon and you're on to the News Chronicle. The program is Political Clinic and I'm joined by a political scientist and political analyst as well, Mr. Isaac Abisa.
Welcome. Thank you, Mr. Pius.
So on today's edition of the program, we shall be talking about democracy in Nigeria and elections. Of course, elections in Nigeria, how they are conducted and how, we observe democracy in the conduct of our elections and how democracy actually play out in the conduct of our elections. So like we all know, democracy officially started as way back as 1960 when Nigeria got independence, even before 1960. We practiced some sort of democracy, and after then we've had a movement from one regime to another, to a point we got to military regime, and then from there we moved to a civilian rule, civilian regime like we all have it, and then we are now in another dispensation where we safely say that democracy has come a long way and of course have come to stay. But with recent happenings when it comes to elections in the country, where you see agitations from aspirants and of course agitations from the electorate, you begin to question the strength of our democracy. Now last week, on Saturday precisely, the Ondo State gubernatorial election came and went. We had Mr. Lucky Ayude Tiwa, who continued or was declared winner of the elections by the Independent National Electoral Commission with a very wide margin, with the People's Democratic Party's aspirant, talking about Agbola Ajayi. A lot of reactions through that particular election, looking at the margin between the ruling All Progressive Congress and the People's Democratic Party. Mr. Abisa, I don't know if you've monitored the elections.
Yes, we also what happened and the outcome of the election. We saw it.
Were you impressed with the gap?
Of course not. I'm not impressed, and any Nigerian who is politically inclined will not be impressed by the outcome of the election. It has become like a tradition or a culture in the Nigerian political space, whereby the powers that's talking about the national level, the powers at the national level tends to have a greater impact in elections conducted at the state level. You see, if you want to look at democracy the way it ought to be, in a state where there is a thorough application of the principles of democracy, elections are not supposed to be manipulated or influenced.
But are you saying the elections were manipulated?
Of course, they were manipulated. Of course.
And then they will tell you to go to court if you feel aggrieved, if you feel that the election did not turn out in your favor.
You see, that's why I initially made mention of democratic principles. The democracy we're talking about, democracy is different from states to states, and when I'm talking about states here, I'm referring to the international level. I'm talking about countries. Different countries with the way they practice their democracy. For instance, look at the United States. Look at their last presidential election. You cannot compare it with what happened here in our last presidential election. But we both claim that we are practicing democracy. But the application of the principles in the US is far different from what is obtainable here.
But then again, when you try to put the blame on maybe the democratic institution of the state, you should also look at the people. Could it be that the political awareness or the political engagement from the people is very poor? Because if you look at the US elections, at some point, a lot of people, it became like a prediction that, okay, we know that Kamala Harris might win the elections, looking at her creed and some of the things she stands for. But it turned out that the people in the United States, electorate in the United States, have what they want, aside what the war thought. So maybe the political participation or the political awareness or even the masses could be where the problem is when it comes to our democratic system.
Actually, you are correct. It is not new. It has been like that. In fact, I would say confidently that it is recently that we are beginning to have a better level of political awareness compared to the way it used to be. But it doesn't change the fact that it is a factor. Our political awareness is still low, although better than the way it used to be. Because a lot of people now want to know what is actually happening in the political terrain. They want to know the difference between contestant A and contestant B. A lot of people are beginning to understand that my vote is likely to count. I'm using the word likely because of the Nigerian pattern of elections. Yeah. In the US, once you vote, you are certain that your vote will count.
Are you trying to say voter participation is now high compared to before? Like what we have now
in Nigeria?
Yes, voter participation, voter awareness, is it more higher than before?
Yes, it is.
But lots of people know about it.
Let me tell you, I went out to vote in the last presidential election. And I saw the way Nigerians came out massively to vote. But I will tell you that the next presidential election may not have the kind of turnout that the last election had.
Why?
Because the whole process, a lot of Nigerians, if you take a sample of 10 Nigerians now, I'll tell you confidently that 7 out of that 10 will tell you that the result or the outcome of the last presidential election was not the people's choice.
Okay.
So this belief, this perception that people have will make them feel that their vote does not count. So what's the business of coming out to vote? And that is why when we say we are operating a democratic system, we need to maintain the principles. It is when the principles are being maintained, followed thoroughly, that will increase political participation. When the principles are followed to where it ought to be, people will have that sense of wanting to come out to participate, to increase political participation, because they know that their participation will not be in waste.
Yes. And then whoever they vote, or whoever the popular vote,
yes, will emerge.
Go for, the person will emerge. A lot of people share in that particular concern, because if you look at the local government elections in some states in Nigeria, they're talking about states like Kwara, states like Kaduna, states like Anambra, states like Imo, Edo, Nasarawa, that conducted their elections. If you look at where the pendulum swung to in that election, you begin to wonder where is our democracy headed, because it is almost like an election that you can predict when it comes to local government elections. If you know that, for example, in Nasarawa state where you have the APC as the governor, of course you should know that the APC will take it all. And then if you go to states like Anambra where you have an APGA governor, you should know that APGA aspirants will take it all. And then it has been so concerning as to where our democracy is really headed. Do you share in that concern?
You see, this takes me back to what I had earlier mentioned. I told you that the Nigerian democracy that we claim we have is not consistent with the real ideals of democracy. Look at it. It's just the same thing like what I said. Why should it be that when a state has a PDP or APC government, it automatically turns out that when local government elections are conducted, the party in power would almost take the whole local government seats.
Almost
this
what to use, because if you go to Akwa Ibom, for example, I think in their elections they actually somehow you see that they
maybe
save
one or
a
two.
particular seat for the opposition party.
you see. So it means that there is high level of higher authority manipulation. The same way I was talking about the influence or the impact coming from the presidency in state elections, talking about the gubernatorial elections, it's the same thing that is applicable. But at the local government level, the governor also wides his good power to support. It's like a mother hen covering the chicks.
So are we at a crossroads right now? Because if you look at it before now, when it was PDP's dispensation, there were these agitations too. And then now that we have the APC, we also have this agitation. Is there a way? Because there's a reason I'm saying this. If you look at it, it's as if we are gradually going down the lane of one-party system. And I don't think it's okay. I don't think it's going to impact positively on our democracy if we swing into that path of one-party system. And it looks like that's where we're headed. Because, the APC national chairman talking about Abdullahi Kandiji while congratulating Loki of Ondo State over his victory, he made mention of something like taking over, not like literally by force, but then democratically taking over Osun State and then Oyo State, which are some of the southwestern states that are being controlled by the PDP as the opposition. So they have that, plans to take over all states that belong to the opposition party. Now, if we have all states being ruled by the APC, who checks their excesses?
You see, all what we've been saying just revolves around the same thing. It is not new what you're talking about. Him saying that they are going to take over all the
States
governed by see
opposition.
I can't remember the person, but there's a political chieftain of the APC who has said that before, that the era of PDP in Nigeria has come and gone. That it is now the era of APC. What he's saying is that when PDP, when PDP was in power, they stayed for a long period of time. All the presidential elections, they were winning. As it comes, they were winning
For 16 years.
16 years. You see, now that power has shifted to the APC, the APC would want to maintain the same trend. And if they do this by winning the votes legitimately,
It's not a problem,
but when they now use the political power to use use all the force they can, manipulate the whole system, manipulate the.
But it's more like a political blend that PDP were doing it, and then when APC came in, they started doing the same.
That is what I'm saying, that it boils down to the fact that we are not keeping to the principles of democracy.
The studies are on the part of the people. What do you think needs to be done differently?
On the part of the people,
The electorate.
there should be, first of all, there should be a higher and better level of political awareness.
You
Because
think people are not politically aware in this country?
it is not like people are not politically aware, but the political awareness is still on the low level. There are levels of political awareness. We have the parochial level. There are a lot of people who just know that our politics exist, but they don't want to even concern themselves with how it is being.
They are not acting. They are just
They are just there, but they know that it is there. There should be a high level of political awareness to the level that every Nigerian, eligible Nigerian, would want to vote in every election.
But I'll take you back to what you said. You made mention of people coming out in their numbers during the last presidential election.
Yes.
But then these same people are aggrieved. that the result is not in tandem with what they did, what like the vote they cast.
Yes,
So isn't that something to worry about?
of course it is.
Then what should they do in such a particular situation? Where you go out in your numbers and then your votes are not, being counted.
You see, it will be difficult for them to do much because of our constitution. Even the Bible says that when the foundation is faulty, what can the righteous do? Our constitution constitutes the bigger part of our problem.
You think our constitution is the problem?
Of course,
Some people will say it's the rule of law.
let me tell you, the constitution that gives power to the incumbent president to appoint the electoral commission's chairman has not done well. If the electoral commission chairman, that's the INEC chairman, it's being put in that position by inputs from all the regions,
You think that will solve the problem?
it will help. It may not solve the whole problem, but it will go a long way in helping, because it is a common saying that who pays the piper dictates the tune.
Yeah, sure.
So for me to make you the chairman of INEC, it means if I tell you do this, you will do it.
With what you are saying now,
I don't know if it's
it's as if it's almost impossible for us to have a credible, free and fair election.
It's almost impossible. It's almost impossible. Before we'll be able to, have a better shift, we need to first of all look at our constitution and put those parts that are not right.
What about just looking at electoral reform? Late President Musa Yar'Adua, part of his 7-point agenda was electoral reforms. Is this something that this government should now double down and say, okay, this is what we should be doing, we should look at electoral reforms? People are not really happy with election outcomes. So is it something that this government should take as a priority?
Let me ask you a question before I come to answer your question. The last government, what did the last government do about electoral reforms? Did you hear anything about electoral reforms?
Well, not that I can remember, but then
See,
there was some little changes here and there.
I'll tell you that this present government, from my analysis, this present government will not do anything about electoral reforms, because the whole process that brought him was shady, and he has the intention, it's a culture, he has the intention of coming back for the next 4 years, and anything that would hamper on that aspiration, he won't do it.
Will the electoral reform stop him from constitutionally running for another term? It won't stop him.
The reforms that
Or you're saying that the reforms might come in such a way that they are going to stem some of these things that hamper credibility, fairness, and then free elections. Maybe if they get to affect some of these things, they will, affect his chances, right? Maybe that's what you're trying to say.
Definitely. Even if he's going to look at that direction, it will be a few, a segment of it that will not hamper his aspiration.
Not a total.
Not a total.
Okay, so winding down, what do you think about democracy in the country? What's your thought about Nigerian democracy as we wind down? Maybe in 2-3 seconds.
Okay, I have always said that Nigeria is not practicing democracy, but if we want to go by the belief that we are practicing democracy, I'll tell anybody that what we have is a quasi-democracy, a democracy that is standing on one leg.
There you have it, a democracy that is standing on one leg. I just hope that one day we're going to stand on our feet. Alright, my name is Pius Kazan, and then do well to join us on another segment, or rather on another edition of the program, which will come your way on Monday. Please stay here.